So today I want to go back to our discussion from week 4 of the production one, the SWP drawing, and just talk a lot about it a little bit. There were a lot of really good comments in it, and some things that obviously were not well known because there was a lot of jargon in it. And then I'll touch a little bit on this week's also, not too much, because I want you to think it through and think of it on your own. But I want to talk a little bit about isometric drawings and a little bit about them. So, and then the other thing is I did make a more focused tutorial on custom line types. I know yesterday we looked at how to make a custom line type and a custom hatch, and I thought it was a little bit scrambled, and I was kind of all over the place. So I made one that was a little bit more focused, and I put it on YouTube and on the week 5 playlist if you're interested. I think the custom line types is an important one. And then I'll just take some open Q&A about if you need a demonstration of something. So now let me find, here it is. This was the topic from last week, and I just want to bring up some points. This is a civil site plan, and it's called a storm water pollution prevention plan. And probably 40 out of the 50 states have really strong stormwater pollution prevention plan programs. And the goal is to keep pollution of waterways free during construction and after construction. And BMPs, as you figured out, was best management practices. And Caltrans came up with the best guide. And most places in California, even if it is not a Caltrans job, will use this book of the Caltrans best management practices for construction sites, because it was so well done. And you go, Caltrans did something well done. They do a lot of things very, very well. And if they were allowed to do their work without some of the political interference, they'd do an even better job. But their best management practice guide is incredible. It's clear, it's concise, it's well done. You can find stuff. And so these, talk about those. And there are about 150 different best management practices for protecting our open waterways during construction. And so you can see on this site, somebody made the point where the lines are far apart. It's there's no grade there. It's not steep. It's almost level. And over here where lines are close together, it's steep. So there's going to be probably some construction up here on the level part. And then in this steep part, it's falling away. And they want to keep junk from up here during construction from flowing down the hill into something else. And the best way to do that is, one, preserve the existing vegetation, because that will keep runoff and water and dust and stuff just from running downhill. The plants will catch it, and they call that soil stabilization. Okay, so that's soil stabilization. Best practice number 2, preserve the existing vegetation. So they're being told, don't dig down here. Keep your bulldozers out of this area. Leave it alone. Stay up here. And then there's sediment control. Sediment is stuff that's in water that gets eroded away. So there's sediment control, and one of the typical ones is a sandbag. And so they're going to lay sandbags all along this line. And a surveyor is going to have to do that. It says, follow the contour line. Well, these things aren't laid out on the ground. You can't just go walk out and find a contour line on the ground. A contour line is, if you walk along it, you are at the same elevation. So our ground just doesn't have markers like that. So a surveyor is going to have to go out and find this 20-foot elevation line and mark it so that they can put sandbags along it. So that's an interesting thing when it says follow the contour line versus giving a whole bunch of dimensions. They said about where the first line is, and that's way too precise. Somebody has to go out and survey that and mark the line. So that's an interesting thing. Now here's another one, tracking control. Whatever the heck that means. Anybody figure out what tracking control is? It's really, if you think about it, when you were a kid and you went outside and played and got your shoes all muddy, you tracked mud all through the house. And somebody got mad at you for tracking mud all through the house. Well, there's probably a street out here, and somebody will get mad if you track mud all over their street. Mostly because that will wash into the stormwater drains and cause stormwater pollution. So they have these tracking control pads, and there's different ways to do that. And if you read TC1, the way that they do it is by kind of excavating a little area and just basically putting gravel down, so that as a truck runs over the gravel picks up all of the dirt. And so tracking control, this is where trucks will go in and cars will go in and out off of the site. Now, this isn't a very big site, and one of the things that you might think about is, wow, when do you have to do this? That's not clear. When do you have to follow all this stuff? Well, each state has different rules, and California has rules, and some locations have rules. You have to know the rules, but they're usually based on either the size of the lot. Now, this is a pretty small lot. The amount of dirt that's being moved, or the cost of the construction, or the most important, if there is a controlled waterway nearby. If there's a controlled waterway nearby, it doesn't matter how small your job is, they're going to make you do this. And this is just part of the planning documents that you need to submit before they'll give you a permit to work. So there's a ton in this. This doesn't even tell you what the job is. Doesn't tell you what's going to happen at all. Is this a new development? Is it a remodel? Are they demolishing something? Are they going to build something? Is it going to be a structure, a landscape? You know nothing about this job from this one view. So this is, it's view number 4 on a certain page. So there's a page. This is part of a big set. So I just wanted to bring that up. Stormwater pollution prevention plans are very important in California, as much as maybe we're probably in the most strict 5 as far as enforcing these. Many states have them and don't enforce them. You can hear from the disaster in Florida with the condominium what happens when you don't enforce rules. By the way, have you guys, been watching that at all? Turns out, and I didn't know this, Florida does have a reserve requirement for condominium associations and the like, but they don't enforce it. As a matter of fact, they very specially made laws to make it so that they don't need to be enforced. And those laws are there to protect the condominium owners. Then disasters happen. And unfortunately, that's usually what causes laws, is a disaster. So California at one time had horrible groundwater pollution problems. And in the early 70s to mid 70s, they got stronger. And of all people, Arnold Schwarzenegger. You would never think that the Terminator would have been an environmental activist, but he hammered through our Cal Green enforcement code of all this stuff that had been best practice since the 50s, 60s, was codified in the 70s, but never really enforced. Arnold Schwarzenegger actually hammered through Cal Green, which put strict enforcement with penalties into our environmental standards. So it's like, it blows me away, because he is not really, normally when you think Arnold Schwarzenegger, recall elections and Republican and all that kind of stuff, you would not think that he was the one, which is one of the reasons why it's important to have an open mind. Is that you can work with people to get things done if you find out that you have a common interest. So anyway, so there's that. That's a little bit of background on the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. Many of the classes in design technology utilize different drawings and different aspects of water. We do gray water analysis, we do rainfall analysis, we do a lot of projects based on water, because almost no matter what field you're in, interior design, landscaping, construction, mechanical, I was a water pump guy for years. Water touches what we do, so you'll see that in a lot of our projects in our department. Okay, any questions or comments about that? Did I touch on some of the things that I think I touched on the things that you guys had questions on? Correct. Yeah, they are supposed to not touch it. And basically the berm is going to be the line of demarcation where you're just not allowed to, and I'm sure they would put up an orange fence, right? One of the orange fences also, just to keep trash from blowing down there. But yeah, this area is to be not touched with, the typical, seed spray and all that other kind of stuff. So, well, no, not really. Um, the this is made from a drawing that we just got out of a book that we've used over and over and over again. It happens to be extremely close in size to a lot in Antelope. And it's crazy. I took them off because it's terrible. you know, usually when you see these lines at 2 feet, you expect they're all at 2 feet. This is a crazy drawing. Some of them are at 4 feet, some of them are at 1 foot, some are at half foot. It's a disaster drawing that we use over and over and over again. So I took off some of the disaster stuff, just to use it. But it's just something we took out of a book, and then we've digitized it, and we've made Revit models of it. We've got, we actually use this as a Revit model in our survey class, and we can go in and survey it in 3D. Kind of cool. So, so yeah, unfortunately, we can't get too much out of it other than, because I even took the property lines off of this one. You know, there aren't, normally there'd be a little dot on each corner and you'd see property lines, but I wanted to show really that just the stormwater pollution prevention plan portion of it. Okay, well, cool, there's that. Here's this. So I want to just do an open Q&A. Does anybody have a question? We did some fusion, we did some this, we did some that. Anybody have any questions on on the topic that you have chosen to do that I can, you know, do a demonstration on that's not very clear or that has not been made clear so far? Steven said he's going to do the mechanical. Noor and Anna, have you figured out which ones you're going to do yet? You get to choose one of these ones. Everybody kind of got. Okay, so Anna, you're going to do the interior design. And so I put some stuff up about blocks. I just want to, let's go and take a real quick look and see what it says, because I put in more than you need. All you really need to do is create the 4 blocks. You don't need all, or using the blocks, there's probably more than 4. You don't need those attributes. You don't need them to stretch. You don't need to do all that. And then you can create a table of materials. And I've said use the data extract command, but if you're not able to, I want to show you how to just make a table if you need to just make a table. And that's in annotate. So let's say you're on a layout and you've got some sort of a thing shown and you want to put a table of information right here. So I showed you how you can extract the data, but from annotate, you can actually find the table command. So what I'm doing is I'm going, all right, you're frustrated. You can't make it work. How do you just get it done? Table command. Tell me how many columns you want. Let's see. I want the block name, a description, and how many, and the cost. I want 4 columns. And how many blocks, how many am I going to have? 8. Something like that. There you go. You've got it. And then if you click on it, you can make it bigger and smaller and all sorts of stuff. You can do all sorts of things with it. Okay, so, and then to change one, you just double click inside of it and type. And I think when you double click inside of it and highlight it, like here's where you give it the size. Well, let's see, that didn't do the size. Somewhere I can give it a different size. There we go. So you can just make a table if that's what you want to do. Okay? That would be your most basic way to do it if you cannot get that data extract thing to work like I showed you. Okay? So for Anna then, that's how to get that table in there. Otherwise, it's just creating all the different blocks, which shouldn't take you too long because they're already drawn. You just have to create them in ways that you think are going to be useful to you and put them into your drawing. Okay? Noor, have you figured out which one you're going to do yet? Okay, well, I haven't heard back from Noor. Well, hopefully she'll be able to report back. And Stephen, you're gonna do the mechanical. No, no. Next week you'll change those to 3 dimensions. So this way, and that's the idea, is this week for mechanical, you'll do 2D unless you decide to start in Inventor or Fusion. Then you make it 3D and you make the 2D later. But these are all just whap out some 2D drawings. And then if you want to continue with mechanical next week, you'll do all that press pull and all that kind of stuff quickly to make a 3D model of it. Nope. Nope. No, that would be hard. That one you really do need to make the isometric view. You really do need to make a 3D solid. you know, but that's all based on having a flat. And that's what's cool. You'll see almost all of the 3D versions start with some flat sketch and then they give it shape. So this is draw your flat sketch, and then next week you'll be asked to make it 3D. Unless you change to another thing. So I give you guys lots and lots of different options. I know that's hard. Most students go, no, just tell me exactly what to do. Don't make me choose. I hate choosing. Sorry. I hate assigning things. So, and I win because I'm the instructor. So you have to choose. And so the goal is you just choose something to do this week. And then next week, you'll either choose a different thing from this week, or you'll extend what we did this week to be just a little bit more complex. And just realize that next week will be, the idea is that it's fairly simple because I want to give you some time to think about what you're going to put in your final portfolio, and I'll give you your stuff on that, because the final portfolio is a pick and choose from all the work that you did this semester. Okay? And so that'll be I'll show you how to do that, and really the final portfolio should take you maybe an hour or two total. Okay? Okay, any other questions then for this one? Yeah. Uh-huh. Did you, if you look, I actually did it on the tutorial. It shows how to do it. but they are not tangents. You actually draw the outside circle, which is like 6" or something like that. And then you go out to the center point at 22.5 degrees, draw a circle and trim away what you don't want. And so let me go to the Jamboard. So if you look on the Jamboard, I describe how I'm going to do it. And then on the tutorial, I actually do it. Because that one is not obvious. Yeah. So I did it on the tutorial. I actually drew the thing. And you could go about it some slightly different ways. You could, maybe choose some different things to do the array from. But yeah, it's kind of a cool. And what I really love about this has been in our thing for years and years and years. One of the products that I made, that I designed and worked with in my first job out of college with Tri-Tool Inc., used Geneva gears as the feed mechanism for our portable pipe cutter. So you can imagine a rotating cylinder that's hooked around a piece of pipe. We actually made what was called a clamshell cutter. You'd open this thing up like a clam, stick it around the pipe and lock it together, and then the head would go round and round and round, and the tool bit would feed in as you go. And every time it went around, a Geneva gear hit a little pin and forced our tool bit in, whatever we set on the lead screw. I mean, I was Geneva gear, lead screw, tooltip force. Oh my God, I learned so much in that job that I was totally unprepared for out of college. And that's where I go, thank goodness I had all these, craft people that taught me what was going on. What's a back angle on a tool cutter, and how do you make a chip, and what's a chip breaker, and what do you do on stainless steel versus carbon steel, and what if you're cutting cast iron? Oh my gosh. And so we would make Geneva gears. We actually made Geneva gears. They were small compared to this, but like when I came to ARC and had to draw a Geneva gear, it was like, well, I can do this in my sleep, except I had to do it by hand. So I love it. I love the flippin' Geneva gear because that was my life when I came out of college. So they're really excellent pieces of equipment. Really, really cool. All right. Any other cool questions? Check out the Jamboard in the AutoCAD tutorial. I think that will do it. And all the other ones are pretty straightforward. Yeah. So here, let me let me go ahead and I'll just pull that one up if I can. Let's see. I can go to and I'll just kind of look at it and go through it for you. Oh, it wasn't one of the plates, right? It was the CAD. Nope, it was the CAD. That was the CAD workbook, wasn't it? Now I need to find my CAD workbook. Ooh, where do I find my CAD workbook? Here we go. I'll come over to it. CAD workbook one, number 1. Okay, so this will be up and we'll take a look at it just to see what's going on. Do you remember what page it is? Let's see. Down in the array section down here somewhere. There's some good stuff just to draw in this workbook. There it is. Okay. So I'll just give you a quick little tour of it. The center point is the most important. And then you draw this 6.5. Okay. And what you're going to do is essentially just draw one piece of it and then make an array. Okay, so I want to draw this one piece. So it says draw the circle. There it is. Then come out at 22.5 degrees to a radius of 4.228 and draw another circle with a radius of 1.328, and that's going to give you this arc intersecting with the outside diameter. And then you'll trim away everything else. And then you'll draw your line out and out, offset, offset, and where all of that comes, now you've got this line, this arc, this arc, this arc, and this line. And then what I usually do is I draw a center, radius, and trim away, center, radius, trim away, and that gives me this little arc, this line, this arc, this arc, this arc, this line, this arc, and then I array it. Yeah, you just do the array with 8. So, and so that's what this 22.5 is for. That sort of just sets you where this thing is. And you just draw one of them and then make an array of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. And so basically you array from this little point here to this little point here, this thing in the middle. And then of course you draw that, and now this keyway is a disaster. You just don't write them this way anymore. So I don't really care what you do on the keyway. If you have something that's sort of like that, that shows that there's a keyway, that'll be fine. Because that is just not how you do a keyway anymore. Because that required you to go to the machinery's handbook and figure out, okay, I've got a 1-inch thing with this keyway, and it would tell you the top and the bottom and the width and whether it was a Woodruff key or a square key or this key or that key. And you had to actually look a whole bunch of stuff up to know what that was. And that's just not allowed. But we've never really changed this drawing because we don't really care at this introductory level. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so it depends. When you're doing power transmission, it depends on how much power there is. If you do power transmission, you want what's called a spline, and there's almost like gear teeth instead of just a keyway. But key stock is so simple, and you would just use, you know, a key cutter or a broach or something like that, or an EDM cutter. Just ponk, and you do it, and then you drop a piece of key stock in. If there's not a lot of power, you don't have a lot of stress at this little interface. So you guys are in my wheelhouse, man. I lived this stuff for years. I flippin' love it. I love talking about stupid things like keyways and splines and planetary gears, and it's like, I love it. And then all the interior designers are going, would you get out of here? I mean, what are you so excited about a square for? Right? You know? So, you know, and then the architects go, dude, you're so anal retentive. Just tell the person to connect it there, okay? And yeah, yeah. And then sometimes you want that to snap because if you over torque it, you don't want to break this piece, which is expensive, and you don't want to break this piece, which is expensive. You just want to shear the key. And so then you have keys with cuts to a very specific depth because you know the stress and you know, it's just fun. It's fun to figure all that stuff out until you get to the conflict between insurance agencies. So, Underwriters Laboratory for certain valves requires that the key in the hand wheel shears and the FM will require that the key in the gear shears. And so if you want to have a valve designed that meets both of them, it is impossible. Because you can't make it so that, you can't. You can't meet both requirements. Yet there are valves that are approved by both. And you tell me how that happens. It's very, very interesting what happens. And this is why I'm very, very emphatic that you must follow your professional ethics rather than succumb to marketing that says, no, we need to make a one-size-fits-all that will do everything. So I did work for a company that had that situation. And it cost us an extra 50 cents to put in the right set of keys, depending on who was purchasing our product. Yeah, literally. Yeah. Yes, but but you actually have to make so yes and no. If you use that little center mark command, you're stuck. It's only going to do it the one direction. However, okay, but here's what you do. I'm going to show you how to do it. So here's a little circle. And this is what everybody does. Okay? And here's a center mark. And you'll see that that is essentially a block. So if you explode it, now it's a bunch of things and you can rotate. Is that the dumbest thing you've ever seen? Yep. That's what you have to do. So it's really funny that way, but that's what it is, because center marks are normally there for, doing some linear stuff too and things like that. And so you're supposed to have them there so that you can dimension from it. And most people don't figure that you're going to put your angular dimension to it. You'll just do an angle from point to point or something like that. But I agree with you. They really do look better that way. And so that's what you do. Okay? You make your own, basically. Isn't that goofy? So there you go. And I don't think centerline between 2 points will go between the two curves either. I think it has to be straight lines. Let's find out. I don't think that, I think this is the same type of a thing. See, it won't, it makes you do a line. Whereas if I had two lines, and I did center point between two lines, isn't that cool? So I like, yeah, yeah, it's kind of cool. And then usually it's supposed to stick out 1/8 of an inch. So that's the lengthen command. DE, a specific amount, delta 1/8. And then you can, was interesting. Lengthen DE. Oh, it won't let me do it on those. Only lets me do it on a regular line. That's interesting. It won't let me do it on those. It will let me pull it up. That's interesting. Okay, so if you're doing it that way, you have to move it 1/8. That's a cool command. That's a cool command. I think I showed you the break command. Dimension line jog is kind of a cool thing. So there's cool stuff in there. Any other questions? Okay. And let me see if there's, and I went over Express Tools, Super Hatch, I did line type. I think that is gonna be, I think that'll do it. Okay. Well, this afternoon, we'll just see who's on and we'll see if I can answer questions again. Maybe I'll give a little bit of a hint out as to what the portfolio will look like so that you can be thinking about that. Technically, we have class on Monday the 12th, but no, let's see, Monday the 19th, the last day of the 6 weeks in the semester. And so I will be on and available, and that's the day that you're supposed to turn in your portfolio. But if you can be done with it before then, woohoo, you're set. So I'll give you a little heads up on that this afternoon, maybe. Okay? All right, then I'm going to stop the recording.